Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be taking a long overdue look through my vintage Albatross books. Now these date all the way back to 1932 for the very earliest ones, and it's been ages since I've been through them, so that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look. Okay then, so we'll start off with number 2. Now, when the books came out initially, they were issued with dust wrappers. So, unfortunately, I would say only a small percentage of mine have actually got dust wrappers in them. And often it's quite difficult to determine if the books are reprints or not. But this is like number 2. It's from 1932. I suspect it is a reprint. You got these were only ever sold on continental Europe, so they weren't sold in the UK, but they were aimed at English-speaking customers, of course. So they reprint British and American authors, and it's their books. Now you've got 3 prices on the back here. You've got it in lira, Italian lira, French francs, and RM, which is a Reichsmark. So obviously in 1932, the country of Germany was about to be run by the Nazi party, and that's why you got the Reichsmark price on the back there. And they did sort of tolerate Albatross books for a little while, but eventually, as war got closer, it wasn't really feasible for them to sort of keep going. But anyway, so that, in actual fact, is, apart from that little book plate inside there, it's actually quite a nice copy, that one. Now, it does say in the back here, in the different languages, it's got a colour system here. So it says the red volumes are stories of adventure and crime, blue volumes, love stories, green volumes, stories of travel and foreign peoples, purple volumes is biographies and historical novels, yellow, psychological novels, essays, etc., orange volumes, tales and short stories, humorous and satirical works. Now that will get expanded on a little bit later on, but just so you've got a little idea of what the numbers mean. So here is a crime one, because it's in the red. It's a very light red, and the crime ones very much are the most collectible ones of the entire Albatross run, and I've only got a handful, unfortunately. The very most collectible ones of all are by Agatha Christie, and she had about 10 titles published in Albatross. Here's number 3, so that was actually out of position. That's number 6 there. This is number 3. She had about 10 titles, 10 Agatha Christie's published in Albatross, and they're all mega money. I've seen a couple of them sell this year for over £200 each, so highly sought after. Often they were the first time the Christie books had ever been put into paperback, even before Collins got them in the UK, which was sometimes the first time they've been put into paperback. So see, this one here actually does say third impression down the bottom there. But once again, apart from being very dusty along the top, it's not too bad. Considering their age, these are now 90 years old. In 1932, and we're in 2022 now, so yeah, these are 90-year-old paperbacks. Absolutely incredible, isn't it? So they don't, as you can imagine, turn up very often. I was quite lucky, and this is one of the reasons I've gone back to reevaluate my collection, is because that's another one that's out of order. I did buy a collection of about 40, and it was a pair of OAPs, and they were downsizing as they were now in their 80s, and they used to be teachers in Europe and abroad, in actual fact, and not just within Europe, and they had loads of this sort of stuff, and I pretty much, over the course of about a year, ended up buying all their old paperbacks, and there was loads from this sort of period as well. So as you can see, this is really, it's quite worn. There's a bit of the back cover missing, it's been stained, but in all honesty, I just don't care, because you really just don't come across these anymore. Very rare to find them in the wild. But if you were to search on eBay, you might find one or two, and they tend to be outlandish prices, sort of like a tenner each, or I've seen them like £50 for really like common ones and that, you know. So I don't know. Apart from the Agatha Christie's, I don't think any of the other ones are mega money like this. There are a few collectible authors within here, and you would imagine that those would tend to sell for a little bit more. But in all honesty, I don't think really many of them should be much more than between £5 and £8 a pop at the upside, and that's in really nice condition as well, you know. Here's the first sort of purple one we've seen here, Microbe Hunters, number 23. There is a list in existence of the full run of Albatross books, and if I can remember, I'll try and put I'll try and pop a link to that list in the description down below. D.H. Lawrence, obviously recognise that name. This is a particularly nice one. So looks like a biography of Bernard Shaw by Frank Harris, but with a postscript by Bernard Shaw. So that's a really, really nice sort of copy of that one. That's the bookseller's stamp there, Dawson, in 12 Rue Albu in Paris. So that's a really, really beautiful condition one. Chances are it would have been in a wrapper and it's been taken off, but what's been left underneath has really preserved it in really nice condition. Funny they were all like that, but sadly not. Young Men in Love. Now it's quite obvious to see, because of the different coloured books, this was where Alan Lane got the idea for the Penguin books, to have them in different colours. And apparently the reason they chose the name Albatross was because it's the same word in multiple languages throughout Europe, which I didn't know. It was actually created by, that's a nice book plate, isn't it? It was created by three men. One of them was John Howard Rees, Max Christian Wegner, and Kurt Enoch. Now, Kurt Enoch, when the series sort of came to an end, a tiny little chip there, I'm going to glue that back in. When the series came to an end, Alan Lane hired Kurt Enoch, one of the creators of Albatross books, to go and work at Penguin America. And that's where he lived when they launched Penguin Inc., the American branch of Penguin. Let's see if I can get it. It's actually come off completely, that little flake of paper. If I can get that back in. Don't know if it's going to do it. There we are. Hopefully that'll stop that disappearing. It's a classic, I suppose, isn't it? Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Not the sort of edition you would expect it to find it in one like that, in an early Albatross. Once again, a little bit of the bottom of the spine just starting to get rubbed on that one. Now I'm hoping, because we don't have to actually shine any of these, that we'll be able to get through the whole lot in one foul swoop rather than split this over a couple of videos. Oscar Wilde here. This is number... this one is completely out of position, so I'm going to put that... I can see, yeah, that one's out of spot. Want to do these in order, don't we? 51, that's quite a nice one, isn't it? Charlie Chan Carries On. older biggers. Quite like the Charlie Chan books, actually. Remember watching the old black and white movies on BBC. Now this one's a double volume or an extra volume, so we've seen that done before by Penguin once again. And apparently Alan Lane, got the idea for Penguins. Sat on the station at Exeter. Not really the case. He was a big traveller. He travelled throughout Europe. He obviously saw the Albatross books and he copied them almost. Format, size, colour coding, very, very similar. Here's a little card that you could send off to get a copy of the Albatross catalogue, which I've never ever seen. There we are. And this card changes throughout the years, but that's quite a nice one. That came with that one, and this one's in a wrapper as well. That's a really, really beautiful copy of that one, actually. I think these are all pretty much okay. I haven't seen any writing inside yet. You'll recognise a lot of the titles ended up later on being printed by Penguin, or Pan Books was another one which reprinted some of these. Certainly some of the crime ones ended up as Collins crime titles. Virgin, the Gypsy and the Fox, another DH rights, number 60. Last one for this pile, 63, no epitaph. There we are, so that's them done. So I think what we'll do, we'll give that little batch a brush. Okay, so I'm going to use my bigger shoe brush here for these. And I'm hoping they're not going to be too bad, but some of these I have had for a long time, like over 20 years. But generally speaking, the Albatross books, these are really, really heavy. They were very, very well produced. They were manufactured with the best sort of quality paper, I think that was available at the time. And they do feel very well made. A bit of dust coming off there. They really do feel well made. And unless you actually have held one in your hand and you can sort of appreciate the weight of it, it's very difficult to get across. But believe me, they are superb. Very, very nice indeed, these. I don't really know anyone who collects them seriously. I know most Penguin collectors will have one or two in their collections because they would have just come across them. But as I said, I've always been sort of fascinated by them ever since the very earliest ones. And it wasn't until fairly recently, like about 2 or 3 years ago, that a dedicated book on their sort of history came out, and it's called A Strange Bird, and I have brought my copy down to show you at the end, and it sort of analyses the publisher's relationship with the Nazi Party and how the three founders, it almost reads a bit like a thriller, were treading a very fine line, as you can imagine. I think one of them was Jewish, so that didn't help. In Germany at that time, so it was tough. It was tough, shall we say? But these are the reasons why the series just couldn't carry on. Not least of which the outbreak of war. But I'm very, very pleased that I've got as many as I have, because these 90-year-old books, I guess they're just not going to turn up. How often are you going to see a book? And even if someone was to hand in some really nice condition ones into a charity shop, because of the actual titles, unless it was like an Agatha Christie or something, I just don't think they're going to even end up on the shelf. It's just not the sort of thing that they would think would have any sort of commercial value. And I think that's part of the problem. I, over the years, have had, that's too many, over the years I've had many book dealer catalogues, dealers who specialised in paperbacks, and you didn't even see the Albatross books listed. Like 1 or 2 at the end, and maybe like a £5 each or something, which was I always thought was a bit dear for back then. Even now, I wouldn't really want to be paying much for them, unless it was like a crime one or something that I really quite fancied. I have actually got 2 Agatha Christie ones to show you at the very end. They're not in the main run, and the reason why is because they're really hammered and they both need proper extensive repair work. So what I have to do, I have got an idea in mind about how to repair them, because I've done this before with penguins, and that's actually to scan a really nice normal crime book. And then I've got a friend of mine, he is a book designer, and he can replicate the Albatross fonts and stuff, and he'll put the correct one in and actually make a false jacket for it, which I'll put over the original or something along those lines. So I've had a little think about it, but you'll see those at the end and see what you think. But if I do decide to do something like that, I will of course film the process, because it will be interesting to document how I restore them. There we are. So that's the first pile of 6. So quite a lot there, but that's okay. Let's get the next lot out. Okay, pile number 2 then is number 64 here, chrome yellow. And quite a nice copy of this one by the look of it. Yeah, this one's I've got a few with this J.G. Wester book plate in, and then another little thing about the Albatross. Dear reader, I'm trying hard to publish the very book you want. If you've not chosen it already, would you like to select it yourself? I will send you a free copy of any book published by me at your suggestion. For particulars, please see overleaf. Looking forward to hearing. I remain yours, the Albatross. And there it is. Just sort of goes through the colour coding again. There you go. Quite a nice thing. I like the way that they put stuff like that inside the books. It's brilliant. Virginia Woolf, another fairly famous one here. And another one again. Little Albatross mailer. It's got a name inside. So we'll see if we can get that out. If it is in pencil. Yeah, it is. Just an old signature or something by the look of it. Not Virginia Woolf's, I can assure you. So Albatross were so successful, they were able to buy out Touchnitch, which was like the very first sort of publisher anywhere, really. And Touchnitch had been going for like 100 years at that time, and had published loads and loads of stuff. So Albatross were able to mine their back catalogue, basically, which they did a little bit, but I think they really tried to be contemporary with the authors that they were publishing, with a few exceptions, of course. They published a few like classics, but on the whole, when something like that was coming out, or the Aldous Huxleys, they weren't actually that old, they were fairly new back then, so they were more contemporary. Trial of the Hawk. Big, thick cardboard covers on these. The Bridge. '79, Laughter in Heaven. Private Life of Helen of Troy. Got a different card again, more in keeping with the colour of the book. I guess they did it uniform to that. The same little Albatross card. Really, really like the way that they include those. It's great. It was in a dust wrapper. 83 here, Mother's Cry. That's alright, fairly nice copy of that one. Actually, I just noticed the bottom of the spine there has been rolled up, so we'll get that one glued. Considering how old they are, you know, they're 90 years, they have, in all honesty, survived so very well compared to, we were looking at the puffins last week, and some of the puffins from the 1960s, they're 60 years old. The glue that was used back then had dried in a lot of cases and the covers had come clean off. So considering these are 90 years old, they've survived very well indeed. 84 here, Magnificent Obsession. This is another really, really nice copy. Nice and clean, that. All I can think of is that prior to me getting it, it must have been in a wrapper, and the wrapper has just done its job and really protected the book over the years. Story of Saint Michel. This is an extra volume, they call it, number 86. Quite a big thick from that one. Ex-Library E.W. Reinhold. I wonder who he was, or she even. Another Aldous Huxley, number 87. Uncle Spencer and Other Stories. Oh, look, there we are. Look, it's got a separate thing there, the Albatross Crime Club. And lists the crime authors, including, like, there's an Agatha Christie there. Lord Edgware Dies. Yeah, a lot of those authors went on, or would be published simultaneously in the UK under Collins. And someone's pasted that in that. Nicholas Bentley impression of Mr. Aldous Huxley. I tell you what, the stuff you find in these old paperbacks sometimes is just incredible. It really is. Cosmopolis, number 88. Number 90, Gentlemen, the Regiment. But if you were to buy these books when they were brand new, I bet they were just beautiful. They'd really encourage you to, like, get a collection of them. Even back then, I'm sure, you know. God, this is so heavy. If you could feel the weight of this book, you just wouldn't believe it. It's like twice the weight of a normal paperback. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy. And so that one there, really, it says, look, did you enjoy this? But if so, consider taking advantage of the Albatross Crime Club. So really, that card there should be in one of my crime titles. So I can see a couple coming up. So I'm gonna keep that to one side, and I'm gonna put it inside a crime title, because it actually specifically says, didn't you enjoy this book? Why don't you consider joining the crime Albatross Crime Club. England, they're England. Lovely. Another D.H. Lawrence, The Lovely Lady. Another one with that particular book plate in. I've got a few from this collection. J.G. Wester. I wonder if I could find anything about them online. Now, I definitely got this one in Colin. Colin's Crime Clubs. This is the Motor Rally Mystery John Road. But this is the Albatross edition of it. So these are the ones that are the collectible ones in the Albatross. And there we are, look. Published for the Crime Club by the Albatross. So there is that connection between Collins and the Crime Club. Copyrighted 1933. I wonder what that connection was. Maybe Albatross published them in Europe, and at this point, well, the Crime Club weren't doing paperbacks at this point. They was still a bit before that, but a few years later they did. Like literally, like 1936, Collins Crime Club kicked in paperback. They were already existing in hardback, so maybe, you know, the Albatross library was given permission by the Crime Club to do the Continental paperbacks, something along those lines. It's difficult to know so many years later. Night in Gleneagle, so I'll put this card in this one for John Ferguson. Yeah, so I think that one would be best to go in there, which is a Crime Club title. But they are very, very attractive, the crime titles, and you can see why they are collectible, particularly those Agatha Christie ones. They are a fortune. And the last one for this pile, see, this is so much lighter. It's weird, isn't it? It must have been different paper, but Life of Our Lord, Charles Dickens, 140 pages. Big, big print in this one, so quite a thin little volume. Now, where was this taken from? Because I'm a bit of a Dickens fan, but I don't remember this. Written in 1849. I don't really remember ever reading that by Dickens, and I am a bit of a fan. Brilliant. So that's stack number 2 of 6. So we got still loads to go through. So let me get these brushed out. As always, it's the top edges that pick up the dust, or have picked up the dust over the last 90 years. But considering their age, on the whole, I think they are in pretty nice condition, all things considered. I suppose copies would have come over to the UK with people who'd been on holiday and just bought them over there and then brought the copies back with them. But The thing was, they just weren't being sold on the in the shops or on the newsstands in the UK. That is the key difference, really. So you couldn't have just gone into a shop and bought these in Britain. You would have had to have been somewhere in Europe. And by the look of it, it was Italy, France and Germany is where they're readily available. Lovely. Right, so that's stack number 2 finished. Let's get the next lot out. So the 9 Tailors, Dorothy Sayers here, number 212, another nice crime one. That'd be nice to get, wouldn't it? Like the Wind in the Willows there. Never seen that one. And they didn't do much that, books that you would consider juvenile titles. Although it is most definitely a classic, isn't it? 214, Bird of Dawning. It's interesting in my numbering that I haven't got a lot between 110 and 200. I don't know why that is. I said I've got a couple of Christies which may fall in that period in actual fact, but no idea why. I'd have to sort of analyse the list and see if I could come up with any pointers as to why that might actually be. May just be bad luck. 219, Eric Linklater, Mary Queen of Scots. See, this one is noticeably lighter compared to the other books. It's really, really weird. What was that inside? Oh, explanation of the colour code again. Looks like that's come off. That is an insert. It's not actually the back of a dust wrapper. That is actually an insert. So maybe at this point they had actually dropped dust wrappers. I see it's got a little £2 inside. The frontispiece as well. Wow, this is quite unusual. Dated 1934. I think that was worth £2, that one. That may have been what I paid for it. I don't actually remember getting this one, mind you, but nice condition for that. Two, 3, Invitation to the Waltz. Look at all that. Very, very fox, this one. What does it actually say? It's very, very difficult to read. I think I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to leave that in there. Just because there's so much of it. I don't think it would benefit from taking it out, really. 225. This is one in quite nice condition. By the looks of it. Quite a nice catalogue there. At the back there. A bit more than is normal. For books published in 1934. Yeah, pretty nice copy, that one. 225. Picaro. Of course, as I said, the books were reprinted quite a bit, and it's quite difficult to know. They don't always say what printings they are, so sometimes you're making your best guess just based on a hunch sometimes, Quite a rough old copy of that, but it's there, just about. 235 Main Street. Now that I will rub out, because that's just a vintage doodle. I'll put a bit of glue in there as well, but let's rub that. Just a bit of scribbling, really, isn't it? And we can't abide it. thankfully it's just in pencil, which is great news, so it's coming off very, very easily. Okay, and I think we need to get some glue down that bit of the spine there. It does look a bit messy, so we'll toothbrush in there first. Pull out any dust that's accumulated, of which there was a bit there. Now we can roll the Pritt stick along there. Put a bit more out. Like so. Whoops, let's re-glue that bit back in there, like so. Big thick book this one, so it's not surprising that the spines come away a little bit. There we are, that's absolutely fine now. Problem solved. Two, 3, 8, Magnus Merriman. A nice copy of that. Here today and gone tomorrow. Yeah, bottom of the spine's coming away on this one. Look at that. Your bookshop. That's quite modern, isn't it? Quite modern to see in an Albatross. It does show, look, that was £1.50 in a British bookshop. So they have turned up over here. I don't think that was me, and it's got a name inside, so quite a bit to do on this one. It's not the greatest of copies, but we'll take away the owner's signature first of all. So once again, it's only in pencil. Like that. Then spine wise, this is not going to be, yeah, I think we'll be okay. Similar to the last one that we did. Oh, look at that top block is almost detached in actual fact. Yeah, it's almost detached, which is not ideal. But if we can get a generous sort of blob of glue in there, it may just keep it together. At least a better than what it actually is at the moment. Right. Now we need an extra bit of glue at the bottom of the spine there, just to slide into that slot there. Certainly certainly been through the wars, quite literally, this one. But that's okay. Lovely. Well, bit of a job to have had to do that, but I think it does look a lot better for having done it. Cossack girl. The woman who rode away. I've got quite a few D.H. Lawrence. I've also got quite a few Aldous Huxleys. I don't know why. They've just sort of ended up coming my way. 252. Speaking of the devil, another one. I love that same bookplate again. It's the first of 4 Oscar Wildes. This is 255. This is in the correct place now. Some good titles in this one. And I guess these are come from the Tuchnich editions. They've just grabbed them from there. The 4, that picture of Dorian Gray, Lord Arthur Saville's Crime. They're probably his 2 most famous novels, I would say, but who knows. Plays, Lady Windermere's Fan, another one. Importance of Being Earnest. What a writer he was, wasn't he? Okay, so that finishes, these are quite rough, these, but that finishes pile number 3. So we need to give these a brushing off now. So let's get them sorted. Okay then, so we got these first few. I get my brush again. These are certainly benefiting from having the treatment, as it were, going through each one. At least I know going forward that everything I've got in there is going to be looking the business. And I said, because these don't need a polish, because obviously they've just got paper covers, there's no glossiness here. So Mr. Sheen will once again be not required this week, but because of that, it does mean I can do the entire Albatross collection in one video, which is also good because it sort of keeps it neat, as it were. Always that top edge which has collected the dust over the years. Loads of it on those. Some of these really are quite fragile. Okay, so we are halfway through, believe it or not, and we've certainly seen some good stuff so far. Let's get the next pile out. Okay, so cracking on, another Oscar Wilde. As I said, there was 4 published in simultaneous numbers. This is 257, the poems and essays of Oscar Wilde. Quite a nice copy of this. And what is all this inside? A grey Albatross letter, which we've seen before. What's this? The Christmas pudding. What goes in next? From Grandma with love to Nicola. That's really, it's really quite nice. I guess it's cut from a card or something like that, isn't it? But it's nothing to actually do with the book. So I'm just going to put that to one side. Yeah, another grey Albatross card. Now that looks like it's nothing from this. That's just like a little insert that's gone in there. Complete works of Oscar Wilde in Albatross, and I have got all 4 of those, so that's quite nice, isn't it? Pretty cool, that. Pretty cool indeed. Another great one, I Claudius. I don't think I've got Claudius the God, but we can only assume that they published it. But so of course, when this one's come out, I wonder if it's dated. I mean, the original firsts were like only a couple of years prior to this, I'm guessing. In 1935, I think I Claudius was first published in like 1930 or 1932. I actually do have the first editions of both of them in hardback of those, actually, but not in dust wrappers. The dust wrappers are legendary rare, and they don't even exist in facsimile form. I've seen photos of them on the books, but not actually scanned at all. This is quite interesting. So Defy the Foul Fiend is number 267. When Penguin got round to publishing it, they did it as number 666 with their little play on numbering. Right, tiny bit of glue needed at the top of that one as well. Clean the edge of my screwdriver here. There we are. Right, smear that in. There we are. Let's improve that no end. Stopping it getting any worse, of course. 2785 Silver Daughters. Yes, another Aldous Huxley, a green one this time, Beyond the Mexique Bay. This one's in a wrapper. Oh, it's got that guy's book plate again, J.G. Wester. I wonder who he was. I'll tell you what he was. He was well read. That is what he was. Because he got some good stuff. I must have just picked all those up off one little lot. I don't think it was from the older couple I was mentioning earlier. I think it was from a different source. Maybe it was a little lot I bought on eBay or something years ago. Can't really remember. And interesting, that does say a second impression, October 1937. Memories and Vagaries, Axel Munthe. Gotta say, these are really, really cool to look through in one sort of hit like this. I don't think, well, I haven't done it for several years, and since then I've been quite lucky and had quite a few additions to the collection. So having them all out, it really makes me appreciate what I've got in actual fact. Certainly considering how scarce they really are to come across, generally speaking. 298. completely different bit of paper. It's much thinner and lighter. I wonder if this is because we're second impression again. Once again, November 37. I wonder if it's because we're getting nearer the war and possibly we're starting to see a little bit of paper rationing coming in. I don't know, but it'd be interesting. You don't generally notice it with the Albatross, but you never know. It's a blue one, so blue card, so that seems to match. 302. John Erskine. Another big one here, another extra volume, 309. South Riding. That's nice. 322, Sparkle Brook. It would appear as if almost every volume had one of those little inserts inside. The Southern Gates of Arabia. So if you buy one without it, you could almost consider it incomplete. That one's got a fold-out map, which I'm not going to touch. But beauty vanishes. Lovely. Right, so let's give these a brush down. This first part here. Actually, the I Claudius, before I brush these, just in the bottom of the spine is actually a little bit come away. Nothing like a little bit of glue won't fix. Right, now I give my brush off. God, the weight of these books, you just won't believe it. It's only 3 books, but they're so heavy. That one in the middle was the worst one. But we've done the best we can. Lovely. Right. Stack 5 coming up. So we got 327 here, the Gentle Savage. Once again, this one is in a dust wrapper, so I can only assume that the dust wrappers did continue June 37. So I'm assuming once again that is an original first Albatross printing. This is interesting. This is a slightly different one. I think it's in the travel library. And they've actually sort of done a slightly illustrated cover, which is the first time we've seen that, isn't it? So not on the normal jacket, but on the actual dust wrapper, it's got they've put in a few little places there, a few French landmarks, or Paris landmarks, in fact. So yeah, interesting to see that. I wonder if they do that on any more. People in Cages. What's this about? I wonder if it's I don't know. I wonder. I'm quite interested to know what that book's actually about. Burmese Silver, 341. Edward Thompson. Yeah, I think we've definitely established that if it comes with a card, it will be a card that's the same colour as the series that the book is in. It's quite a nice one. Men Without Women, Ernest Hemingway. This is probably the first paperback of this one. They did do Claudius the God. I thought they probably did, yeah. I haven't got it there, number 290. I thought it would have been, if they did one, it would be unusual for them not to do the other one. Lord of Arabia, 357. .378, Peter Waring. They do look beautiful when they're outside their dust wrappers, don't they? Because they've survived so well. It really does highlight them. 7 Against Reeves. That's that nice book plate again. That was 382. This is 386 on Borrowed Time. Youngest Disciple, Edward Thompson. Lots of these have got these little European bookshop stamps on. It makes it really, really interesting. Stamps or stickers, I should say, as well. Journeyman, Erskine Caldwell. Bit of a ripple running through this one, which is a shame, but it's actually a pretty nice copy of that one, actually. 397. The British Character by Pont of Punch, number 400. It's unusual, it's like a cartoon book. And I just thought, I don't know, but if I was hallucinating it, but it struck me almost straight away. Yeah, maybe not. I thought I saw a Carl Giles picture, but I think the artist is Dupont. Pont is the artist, and I think these have come from the magazine Punch. How unusual! How unusual! Yeah, Pont. But for a while, I thought these were Carl Giles ones, but at this point, I know Carl Giles was he was doing cartoons for the British Armed Services, so I guess that is where that's come from. But interesting. I thought for a minute we'd found something. Now these later ones, I have a suspicion, are post-war, when the series got revived for a very short while, but didn't really survive. Yeah, see, that was 1947, so's this. So I think this is the turning point. So what? I'll double check the date of this one as well. See if we can pinpoint when the book stopped for the war. So that's 1939, number 397. 400 is 1947. So the series came back after the war, but it didn't survive very long, as we'll see. 510 is actually out of position, so we'll slip this one back in to the correct spot in a moment. It's got quite a bit of writing in that one. That says 1939, so maybe those other ones are reprints, possibly. Who can tell? 551 here. Operation Neptune. Of course, by this time, Penguin were well established, weren't they? 1947, yes, this is definitely the later series. I need to get some sort of glue in there, so let's dig the glue out and slide some in. And they feel the same, and they look the same, but obviously they're not really pre-war anymore. Quite a bit, you could say the best part of 7-8 years have gone by. And although they look the same, the colour coding and that, they are very much different. But these ones that we're looking at now, this is how the early pans were printed. They were printed in Paris, floated up the Seine and came over the Channel to be sold in the UK, which was still, to a degree, suffering from paper rationing at this point. But Europe was not. There we are, let's sorted that right out. That's lovely. Still got a mail-in inside there. And the last one of this pile before we give them a brush is Doris Leslie 557 Polonaise. That's a really nice one, that. Lovely. Okay, let's give these a brush down. Okay. Getting them on the top of that stack. Lots of dust coming off those. They didn't seem that dusty. But there you go. Put one more up there. And then we're going to start a pile in the front here. lovely. Oh, what a mess they make, these books, I tell you. But they're looking rather spectacular. So let's get the last pile out. Right, a very, very nice one here. Number 560, Dyed in Wool, and the J.M. Marsh. No dust wrapper, but a pretty nice copy of that one. It's that re-release time, 1947. It was also a very early Pam book, that one. 561, special volume it says on the bottom of the spine. Not sure what made that one special. 573, Siamese White. Really nice one. I'm assuming it's still in the 40s. Yeah, 1947. But still using the original numbering. Now that changes from the next one. For some reason, it then jumps up to 1,622 for that one. So, huge jump in the numbering here. But we'll check the dates as we go along. 1947. There we are. So, "3527", Rudyard Kipling's Kim. Another big, big book. A little bit brittle, that one. "4684", Constant Nymph. Ooh, what was that? What's this? J.D. Beiderbecke. Looks like, yeah, it was a receipt from the bookseller from 1947, so I'm not going to get rid of that because that's really nice. We'll keep that with the book. Yeah, that's really nice, that. 4931, Journey's End. "5169", The First Wife, Burles Buck. Tatty wrapper for the shipbuilders. But okay underneath, 5210. But the wrapper does bring that one down slightly, but we'll keep it on. Now this one, 5248, See How They Run. Gerard Tucholsky. Very old price on the front there, which we'll take off. Stopping it being authentic. Nice copy of that. Yeah, very nice. "5344", The Very House, Maza de la Roche. That's again a nice copy of that one. Now, that's the last one of sort of the main series, but we've got this oddity, which is the Albatross Almanac for 1935. So it's almost like an annual or a best of. That's the only way I can sort of describe it, I think. Yeah, it's got a catalogue at the back. It's got the some letters to the editors of the series, highlights from it, calendar, 1930. Look at that. Lovely, isn't it? That's really, really nice. Yeah, very, very nice. Don't know how scarce that is, but I think the fact that it's got the catalogue at the back as well, with the series numbers. You can imagine Helen having a copy of this, can't you? And thinking, oh, I've got to bring something like this out in the UK pronto. Now this one I'm not 100% sure, because it's not Albatross, it's Collins, but it's the Albatross Book of the Living Verse, and with the Albatross logo on. Now we know historically, because we've seen that Albatross published some of Collins' crime books. I wonder if they were able to take a bit back and do something in reverse, as it were, from Albatross. Maybe this was an Albatross at one point, and Collins thought, we'll print an edition in the UK. But really, that is sort of all I know about it. So I've kept it as part of my Albatross collection, but I honestly am not 100% sure that even it is connected to Albatross, except with the name and the logo there, so I'm not sure. Now you may remember I said I did have a couple of Agatha Christie's. Well, here's the first one, Murder on the Orient Express. As you can see, it's missing the bottom of the spine here, and you can just about make out the number 121. So I'm going to take one of my nicer crime books and get it replicated, and then I'm going to get my friend to redo the jacket, and I'll make a new jacket for this because it's very much fallen to bits, and you know, it is what it is, but it's such a rarity. I'm just going to leave that as is for the time being. And I have actually got another one which is in even worse state, which is Death on the Nile, and this is literally in 2 or more pieces. As you can see, it's like just falling. It's got no spine left, back cover is off. I mean, it's just supremely fallen to bits. But the last sort of copy, or the copies, some of the copies of Agatha Christie on in Albatross have been selling for over £200. So admittedly, that's really nice copies in dust wrappers, not exactly what you're looking at here. So it is what it is. You know, I just happy to have a couple, really, because they are by far the most collectible of all the Albatross books. So let's give this last little batch a brush down. So I hope you've enjoyed looking through these. Actually, I really have. I've been meaning to get them out for a while, and there was a bit of conversation about Albatross on Instagram amongst sort of the vintage book collectors on there. And if you're not following me on that, I'm under the name Penguin Book a Day. And I thought, you know, I must get my Albatross books out, and that's what we've done. So I'm very glad, and they've definitely benefited from a 90-year service, haven't they? As some of them had already been done. I know that for a fact because they've come to me in the last few years. But anything prior to that, well, that's probably what we've been working on. Ones that have needed light repair and things like that, you know. Just do this one on its own. I'm not going to touch the 2 crime books because they're they might fall to bits literally on me, but I do need to do this one, so I think it's probably best to take the wrapper off completely. I can really get into the tops there. I think there must be some sort of connection to Albatross, but I'm just not 100% sure what it is. Anyway, there you go. So I hope you have enjoyed that today. Once again, next time, I think we are going to be doing the next batch of vintage pan books. So look out for that in a week's time, as I just take off whatever this is at the top here. Yeah, look out for that next week. But until then, thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you again soon.